Here I had my own crew of engine flight mechs, and my job was the responsibility of removing and replacing props when required, or removing engines when they'd done their timed flying time. On one occasion, which I remember very well, was we were detailed on the Saturday dinner time, just before we were due to go on weekend leave, that an aircraft was coming in and it would be required to go out on Monday morning to the Far East to bring the lads back from the Japanese area of the war. These were ex-POWs of the Japanese and would be unable to come back by sea. I asked my crew for volunteers to get this aircraft and to have it ready to fetch these lads home. I had a full crew volunteer, so we proceeded, removing the 2 propellers, removing 2 engines, replacing with new engines, and replacing the props. I, in turn, being responsible, was checking at all points. In due course, I was happy that the aircraft was then fully qualified to fly. Having signed the 700 form, I reported to say the aircraft was airworthy. To my surprise, the chiefie informed me that a crew were coming straight out to try the aircraft, and I would be required to take off and do a circuit and bumps with them to make sure that the aircraft and the engines and the props were working correct. In due course, we did take off, up the runway and up into the air. As we flew along, I was waiting to be told that I would be being dropped off. But time kept passing, and as I looked out of the window, I realised that we was flying north and heading towards Scotland. And lo and behold, we did get up to Scotland, whereupon I went up to the door to the front compartment and knocked. Here the aircrew looked with astonishment that I was in the back. They had forgotten all about me going up on a test flight, and I'd gone into a training flight for a new aircrew. As it was impossible to do anything about it, the only thing I could do was to wait until the training flight for the new aircrew was over. As we approached Scotland, I was asked to go up into the front of the aircraft. When I got there, the pilot apologised to me that he had forgotten about me. But to compensate me, he asked me if I would like to sit in the other seat and see out of the aircraft as it flew. I said yes, having never been in the very front before. With fighter aircraft, there's only one seat. As I sat there, the pilot asked me if I would like to take over the controls. I said yes, and as the aircraft turned, we headed from Glasgow towards Edinburgh. I was asked if I would like to take full control, which I put 2 feet into the steering for the rudder and took the control to the front. The pilot then said, keep it at 27,000 feet and follow that road that you can see down below. That is the main road from Glasgow to Edinburgh. And I'm very sorry you're having such a long flight when you should be at home sleeping. As we carried on, we did get to Edinburgh, where on returning to the rear of the aircraft, the pilot asked whereabouts I lived. I told him Hull, on the Humber. He smiled and said, yes, I'll give you a light and you can come forward when we're approaching. When the light did come on, I went forward and the pilot had an apology. Low cloud blocked out the whole of the Humber. And to make amends, he told me that there was 3 or 4 orange rings in the cloud. This was the blast furnaces in Lancashire, and that was the best he could do for me. I was quite happy. I knew I was flying over Hull, and it gave me a nice feeling. As we carried on, I returned to the back, and in due course finished up at the aerodrome. Very tired and very hungry. When going into the cookhouse and asking if I could have something to eat, all I was offered was a tray of nearly cold eggs, fried eggs, on a large tray. I tried one. I gave up and went home, back to my billet, very tired. But pleased to know that aircraft did take off with the crew and flew off to fetch some of the POWs from the Japanese war back home. This business of carrying them home was mainly due to the condition of the poor lads themselves. This continued for a number of weeks, and strangely enough, I was posted once again, this time back to Henlow. Henlow was as the male, which gave me problems in teaching them engineering terms about aircraft engines. But we did manage to get over it, and I first saw the engine of the new jet aircraft, the Meteor, which actually had one that had exploded, which had been on the test beds. Today, this tiny aircraft engine has now changed into a huge engine which carries people around all over the world. And I have no doubt that in due course of time they will be improved. But that is in the future. As I say, at Oakington, there's very little to say, and I just taught them a part of the old mailing engine, which I knew so well, both out on the field and now teaching new recruits. The problem with this particular time was not so much the recruits, but the weather, because once again Christmas was here, and this year it absolutely snowed and the whole of the country froze, which meant leave was practically a no-go. The result was, over Christmas, all the people were sent home, barring myself and one or two more instructors, rap lads, who had the job with the last entry of recruits to keep the camp as free as possible from the frost. This was no easy job, but we did it the best we could. Freezing temperatures and wandering around with blow lamps and heating as best we could. And our hut was absolutely freezing at night time. So as time passed, my turn to be demobbed came up. But by then, all the recruits were back again, learning about mailing engines and all the other engines. Looking back at it all, I had my highlights, I enjoyed it, and I had my low times. But to come back out of it, I look forward to. So I finished up going back to Kirkham in Blackpool, which was the Demob place. And in due course, I got my Demob suit, a blue suit with big stripes in, and the cheerio from the chap, wishing me luck to come back into Civvy Street. And what a change it was. But that's another story. And this is my story. So I hope you enjoy it. I've had to leave much of it out because there's so much that can happen. But you have a brief idea now, both you, Andrew, Martin, and the grandchildren, of what Grandad did in the war and helped to keep the old country going.